Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the Managing Director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. This video, unlike most of the other videos on this site, is something more of maybe an op-ed piece, I guess you could call it. Most of the videos on this site are meant to be brief sort of snapshots of the overview of a given legal issue and how that the posture of said issue here in Thailand or the service we can provide in association therewith. This video is a little bit different. I recently watched the address that Donald Trump gave to the joint session of Congress, and it was interesting because during the speech, what topic came up, there was made mention within the speech of the notion of immigration reform. Immigration reform, or as has colloquially been referred to as comprehensive immigration reform, that was bandied about quite frequently throughout the term of the previous president, Barack Obama. Comprehensive immigration reform is basically exactly what the name implies, comprehensive immigration reform. One has to keep in mind that essentially the Immigration Nationality Act, the one that we've been operating under, has essentially been in place since the Eisenhower administration. And that document, that act, it has been significantly amended and altered throughout the years, most notably recently IRA. There are various other things that have, there was the Child Citizenship Act back in 2001, which changed a few things. But for the most part, you may occasionally make a cosmetic surgery to the body of this jurisprudence, but overall it's really kind of cosmetic. It doesn't really get all that deep. That being said, in recent months, as can be seen from some of the videos on this channel, there have been major shakeups in the immigration world. And I don't think it is unreasonable to infer that President Trump is probably fairly serious about some form of immigration reform. And in my opinion, that may be rather warranted. I don't know if I would necessarily agree with the kind of reform that Mr. Trump would like to make, and I'm not going to get into the details of the reform, but I will, or of any prospective reform, but I will go out on a limb and sort of say, look, INA, the Immigration Nationality Act, as it sits right now, has been around for quite some time. And certain policies that are enshrined in that, and certain preconceptions and assumptions that are within the writing, within the body of that piece of legislation, a lot of those have really fundamentally changed over the years. Now, I'm not talking about any specific law here. Just conceptually, we're in a very different place as a nation than we were, in the 50s, basically. And I don't think it's unreasonable to say, look, maybe a few of the things that are enshrined in the current INA could be changed. Perhaps more enforcement in certain areas, and perhaps it might not be a terrible idea to liberalize certain aspects of the INA. That being said, I'm not going to go into specific details about what I think per se, but I simply think that perhaps an overall discussion of immigration and immigration policies and possible new procedures might not be a terrible idea. That being said, for purposes of anyone watching this wishing to sort of understand how things could change in the future, it should be noted that I sort of liken any comprehensive immigration reform, or if it actually occurred, to be very much akin to what happened to the bankruptcy laws under President George W. Bush. The bankruptcy law, the changes to the bankruptcy laws were made right around the time, just before I would have been ending my academic pursuits with respect to the law and attempting to go ahead and get licensed as an attorney. It's been quite some time since that happened, but I remember it fairly vividly because I was studying law at the time. When that came in, that really overhauled things, and it really fundamentally changed the practice of immigration, or of bankruptcy law at the time. I don't think it is unreasonable to think that comprehensive immigration reform would do the same. It wouldn't do the same thing, or would do the same thing than the changes to the bankruptcy law. And what I mean to say is, as of now, it's, people go on the internet to find information out about immigration. If CIR happened, comprehensive immigration reform, it's all bets are kind of off. We're looking at a totally different regime as far as how the immigration apparatus would work, and it remains to be seen. Or it might not. Maybe it'll be done piecemeal through just specific changes to specific pieces of the INA. That being said, I do not think it is unreasonable to think that at least in the next 18 to 24 months, Mr. Trump will probably at least be proposing some significant changes to the immigration apparatus and immigration law itself. And it remains to be seen exactly what those changes are going to be. But suffice it to say, I think it's a pretty good assumption that they will be significant if they're passed, and we could see serious, substantial changes to the way immigration law operates with respect to those trying to get into the United States.